Hi everybody and welcome again to The Laughter Crafter. It's good to be with you again. So you may remember last time we were together we finished off the two-part project, which was the engraved mirror in the frame that I covered with wallpaper and gold leaf. So today I have done a lino print and here it is. It's a little Christmas picture. You have to kind of squint to see it. It's a little nativity scene, but I like it like that. It's quite a naive design. I just scribbled out a simple picture and then I copied that onto this, which isn't actually lino. This is a piece of carpet square. And when I want to make a lino print, I don't buy lino squares because they're very expensive and they're also very hard to carve into. Whereas this is the underside of a piece of carpet square and I just cut it up with scissors. It's very easy to cut. And I can get upwards of 15 little squares out of a carpet square, which cost me about $7. So very, very economical. Only downside of it is the rubber underneath the carpet square has kind of got little dimples in it, but I don't mind that. It certainly is a lot more economical and much, much easier to carve. So that's my little Christmas nativity scene, which I carved out just an hour or so ago. And this is it printed onto a Christmas card. And I also used my little alphabet letters and my ink pad to put Merry Christmas in there. And I just put some simple crayon colouring on top of the ink, the lino print ink. So that was very simple to do and I'll hope you'll have a go at it. So here is the limerick that goes with this week's craft. I carved out a small lino print using carpet and it turned out mint. With ink on a card, it wasn't that hard and it's Christmas. You may have to squint at the lino print because it's hard to see what it is. Anyway, here is the joke that goes with this week's activity. So I bought myself a very expensive, very exclusive original Van Gogh coffee table. And I know that it's an original because there was a little bit of veneer missing. A little bit of veneer. Okay, the worst jokes are the ones you have to explain. Why don't we get on with the craft? So I've gathered the things that I think I'm going to need to make this lino cut. It's not going to be a traditional lino cut in that, here is a lino cut that I made some years ago on actual lino. That's a piece of lino. And to buy these specially sized pieces of lino, they're quite expensive each one to buy. And they usually come in this size or sort of a slightly smaller square shape. I devised a different method, and that is to use a piece of carpet tile. So I went to my local hardware place and they sell squares of carpet tile which are around about 500 mil square or half a meter square, and very easy to chop up with scissors and carpet on one side. And this is a rubber backing, and I have found with all of the dozens of lino cuts that I've made into these carpet squares that they're very, very easy to carve. Much easier than the lino. It's much softer and it gives a perfectly good surface for taking the ink and for printing with. So far more economical and much easier to use. So this is what I'm going to use, this little piece of carpet square with the rubber backing. And then you've got your lino cutting tools. So I'm going to use these to carve with. The actual picture, I'm going to draw myself a little Christmas picture on this paper with a pencil and my rubber, cut it out with the scissors. And of course, once I've made the lino print, I'm going to print it onto some little square Christmas cards with regular ink on my ink pad. And I may use these little alphabet stamps as well. This little bowl is what I'm going to use to, I think I'll make a circular lino cut. So I'll cut around this bowl to get the size that fits nicely into the center of that card. So I'm going to use that for getting the size of my circle. So I think that's everything I need. So next I'm going to get on with designing my design onto some paper, and when I'm happy with that, that's what I'm going to use to cut onto my carpet square. So the first thing I will do is to make the circle, which is going to be the size of my finished lino cut. So I'm tracing around this bowl with my pencil. And then this part you might get a bit stuck on because I'm just going to scribble myself a simple little Christmas picture. But if you want to keep it easy for yourself, you might want to find a picture online, something simple like holly and ivy, or a Christmas tree with a star, or a Christmas bauble. Something simple if you're not confident about drawing, or if you're not confident about using these carving tools into this rubber back. Then just draw yourself something really, really simple. Keep this in mind. If you're going to write words such as Merry Christmas, it needs to be in reverse. So that takes a little bit of practice. I have done quite a few things in reverse. If you have a look at this, it's my initial RGN, but it's in reverse, so that when I stamp it, it's actually the right way around. So any wording you need to want to put into a lino cut needs to be reversed. So that that takes a little bit of work. So I'm going to just draw myself a simple little picture, and yeah, use the eraser if I'm not happy with it, and see how I go with it. Okay, that's my rough sketch of my Christmas picture, sort of a nativity scene, very naive style, and that's what you want. Simple little lines, nothing too complex. Again, you don't have to make it even this simple. You can make it more simple by just doing, as I said, something like an outline of a Christmas tree. Have a look online if you want to get some ideas of some simple lino cut Christmas pictures. If you don't want it for Christmas, then just leave the Christmas part out. I'm going to now have a go at doing a similar design here onto my piece of lino, again starting off with my circular bowl. Well, look, I found a white pen. I've never tried to use one of these before because I've never videoed myself doing any of these, and I can see this pencil mark quite easily, but I'm going to use this white pen for the sake of visibility on the camera. So let's see how we go with this. All I've drawn so far is the inner circle, which is the shape of that bowl, and then the outer circle. So there it is, marked out with the white pen. I think perhaps it's a little bit easier to see than the pencil marks. But what I need to do now before I start to carve with the carving tools is to make sure that I cut away the right pieces and not the wrong pieces. So that's why on this original drawing I marked, coloured in with the lead pencil some areas and left some areas white. So the pieces here on the picture that I've coloured in are going to be left untouched with the carving tools. All the pieces that are white are the pieces that I'm going to carve away with the carving tools. Does that make sense? So what I need to do, so I don't make any mistakes on this is my last piece of carpet tile, what I need to do is make similar colouring in on this as I put on this, so that when I come to carve, I'm carving away the bits that aren't coloured in with the pencil. It's going to be much easier for me to see the pencil marks than to try and colour in with the white pen. So I'm going to go ahead now and do that colouring in, and then we'll get on to the carving. So there's my picture. I've made a few little changes. Oops, I see a bit that I didn't colour in, that little bit of the starlight. Made a couple of other changes to my original sketch, and that is a couple of bits of the hillside in the background. Also realised that in a crescent moon like that, you're not going to be able to see a star shining there because the moon is actually there even though you can't see it shining. So that won't be cut out. So keeping in mind that I'm only going to be cutting away the bits that I haven't penciled in, all the blank bits that I haven't penciled, they are what are going to be cut away. These are my tools. They're high carbon steel blades, different profiles, different sizes, and they're all very, very sharp. So please be careful using these. If you're going to allow children to use them, teach them how to use them safely and supervise them. These are very, very sharp. And if you're cutting on lino, remember that it takes a lot more strength and push power to get through the lino than it does to get through this rubber. So it's very easy to kind of skip along the lino and cut yourself. So that's why I never ever suggest that you hold the lino or the rubber like this and push. You could see what could happen. These are very, very sharp. So keep your hands away and always push away from yourself. I am going to start off with, I think, this one here, which is curved. There are ones that have little corners, and they're great for getting into making really sharp corners. But for getting away the bulk of the background, then I'm going to use this lovely medium-sized curved one. And again, I'm just cutting away on the bits that are not penciled in. So here I go, again, keeping my free hand well out of the way and cutting away from myself. The deeper that you make the cut, the less likelihood that there is going to be ink get into that area. I like to make, whoopsie daisy, I like to keep little lines showing, and I'll show you what I mean when I finish the inking. So I'm not going to cut right down. I'm going to allow there to be little raised bits of the rubber showing, and that sort of shows the working of the carving, and I quite like that. It may not make sense until I show you at the end what I'm talking about. So if there's little tiny bits of the rubber sticking up after I've finished, I'm okay with that. I actually like the effect of it. So it's very rustic, and you probably have noticed that I changed a couple of things as I went along. I took the moon away and the star, the little tiny dot stars away, because they were in the part that had to be cut away, so that didn't work. So I've left one big star on this side, one on this side with the starlight, if you like, some little hilly bits, and Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus, and the stable. And the outside circle is rustic. It's not a perfect circle, even though I started out with a perfect circle. I like it like this. I like it to be rustic. And now I'm going to, I've got grab some stronger scissors instead of those little orange ones, and I'm going to cut around here, remembering that the black parts, the parts that haven't been carved into, are the parts that will take the ink, and the parts where I've carved we'll take little bits of ink. And I mentioned that before, that you will see little bits of it, and that's, to me, that's the true mark of doing a lino cut, is that you will see some of those marks. I cut some of the carpety hairy bits away. So this should just fit into my square card. I don't have a particularly large ink pad, so I'm going to have to move this lino cut around a few times. But it's very rustic, but that's what I like. If you've watched anything of mine, you'll know that I'm not into perfection. I don't believe that practice makes progress. I really go with practice Sorry, practice makes perfect. I go with practice makes progress. And I think that the more you do some craft that you love, the better you get at it. But once you set yourself up to be perfect at it, maybe you've set yourself up for disappointment and even failure. So, you know, progress is pretty good, I reckon. So I quite like this. All right. So what I'll do is I will get my little ink pad, get one of my little cards, Christmas cards, and I will go ahead now and put ink on this and have a go at pressing that. Let me just see how well that fits on. Look at that. Perfect. So I need to make sure I know which way is up. So I might just have a look at this, make sure that I can see what way is up. So when it's upside down, it's not really showing up. I might need to get something that will show up. Let's have a look. I've got this red marker here. Okay, so when it's upside down, I'll know where the top of the picture is. All right. So here's my little ink pad. I have black ink. I don't have any other different colors of ink, but you could always buy an ink pad with different colors in. And so now I am just going to press this little Lino Cut all the way around. I probably will get some ink on my fingers, and that's okay. Doesn't appear to be doing much. I need to press a bit harder. Right to the edges, of course. What I might do is, instead of wasting this card, is I might just have a little practice on a piece of paper first. And if it doesn't come out much at all, what I'll do is I'll grab my ink, I'll pour some more ink in the ink pad and try again. Let's try it this way. Let's put the ink pad on top of the... Look at me getting covered in ink. See, you can be all precious and put your gloves on if you want. I can see that that is pretty inky. So you know what? I'm just going to have a go. Make sure I can see where that top edge is, and there it is. So the top is going to go to the top of the card. And I'm going to give a good press. Now you want to make sure that this is a good press, because once you lift it up, you can't put it back on and get more ink on there. You could, I suppose, come back with a black marker and just sort of touch up some bits, but you know, if you're a purist, you won't want to do that. Another option is you can come back with some watercolor paint or gouache or crayons or pastels or TEXTAS even, and put some color in this. I haven't left any area really for using my alphabet letters. I thought I might have, but you know, I could always put them on the inside, put my message on the inside, couldn't I? Alright, I press that down as hard as I can. Are we ready for the big reveal? Uh-oh, here we go. Ah, look at that. It worked out. Now, what I was talking about before is, what I really like is the lines of the cutting, showing the cutting marks. I really like that. Something else I need to point out is, you can see that this is very dimpled. The parts that I didn't cut, the parts that I left blank, that's dimpled because I worked on the back of a piece of carpet, and that's the dimpling in the carpet. Whereas if you were to use something like this lino, it's completely smooth. So that's one of the trade-offs of having something easy to carve into and way less expensive, as against having the lovely smooth lino. But you know what? I don't mind it. I would rather have very inexpensive. I think from memory, I cut about 16 of these little pieces, rectangles out of this carpet square, which cost about $7 to make 16 of these, whereas from memory, it costs about $10 for this one little piece of lino, which is really hard to cut, although it does print really well. That is waves and a little boat and the sun, and it turned out beautiful, but I reckon this is pretty gorgeous too. So I might do some colouring in. I might put some writing on the inside with my little alphabet letters, but I'm pretty happy with that. What do you think? You gonna have a go? I hope so. just to show you another example of one of my lino cuts that was done on the back of this piece of carpet, this carpet tile. This is from, it's a little raven, and I took the idea from my favorite Edgar Allan Poe poem, The Raven, and a recurring word that pops up in that poem is the word nevermore. And you'll see what I mean about having to put things backwards, any words I mean, backwards, and any picture that you want, if you want it to face a certain way, then you have to carve it the opposite way. So that's my little raven, and here it is, stamped onto a piece of linen. So I've mentioned before that my house is a bit of a gallery. This is that, and you can see it's in reverse there, stamped onto linen. And this was a, I made this frame at the shed, and used the jigsaw to cut out those edges, and then I distressed it with the, sander, electric sander, and I used some beads on the top there to put the raven. I don't know if you can see those beads there, the raven. So that's something that I've done there. You don't just have to stamp on paper. You can stamp, and I think that is ink, but if you wanted to stamp onto a t-shirt or something that you wanted to wear, you could do that. You would just need to use fabric paint or use a regular water-based paint, put some fabric medium in it, just make it a little bit thinner, and stamp with that, and then you can wash your t-shirt or jacket or whatever it is, and it will stay on there and not wash off in the washing machine. So that's an example. Now I'm going to use my little rubber stamps and write something on the inside of my little Christmas card. Okay, now for all of you out there who are saying that's a terrible mess, you know what? Again, this is the kind of effect that I'm going for when I use my little stamps. I'm making a Christmas book for my granddaughter. I do one for her every year, and I'm writing the text with these, and you get these little corners. You get these little corners of the stamp. If you don't press down completely evenly and you tilt it just a tiny bit, you get these little corners, and I am okay with that. So there you go. My little card. Merry Christmas on the inside. One more thing I just want to say about the lino cut is that I can go and wash that. Of course, the carpety side is going to get completely drenched, but wash that with just soapy water, dishwash liquid and water, and just give that a good scrub. I've got an old toothbrush so that I get right in there and get it clean, and they come up perfectly clean like that. And then I just put it out in the sunshine, carpet side up, and that all dries. And then, you know, here's a whole big box of them that I've made over the years. Lots and lots and lots of, look, that's a lemur. Isn't that cute? Lots and lots and lots of them, and they've got no ink on them. They just wash perfectly well, and they're stacked up in there, and that's it. This will wash up perfectly well as well. But you want to not put it away with the ink on it, because it will be hard to get that ink off when it's dry. So I'm going to go and wash that now. But that's our little project for this week. So there we go. That's this week's project. Now, I made this Christmas lino cut because Christmas is coming up next month, and I thought I would start to make my cards early with my very own lino cut. Not on lino, but on carpet. I hope that you'll invest in some little lino cutting tools. They're not expensive. You can buy them at most craft shops, or definitely you can buy them online. And I'll show you in the demonstration how to use them. They're quite easy, but you do need to take care because they're also quite sharp. So I talk about that in the demonstration. But I had a lot of fun doing this. You don't have to make one for Christmas. You can make one for whatever you want. Sky's the limit. If you don't feel very arty, then just kind of sketch out something that you find online, or keep it really simple. A really simple outline from a children's colouring book. Anything you like. Just be aware that any lettering that you do needs to be in reverse, because once you turn the lino print down onto the paper or the surface that you want to work on, it's going to be backwards. So take care of that. And I'll talk about that in the demonstration as well. So that's it for this week. I hope that you'll have a go at something like this and put your pictures up in the comment section as well, and let's see what you make. In the meantime, before next week, I hope you have lots of fun laughing and lots of fun crafting. See you again. Bye.